Words of Joy and Hope, Easter Vigil, Gospel of Matthew
Dal Vangelo
28,
secondo
1,
Matteo.
10, and the commentary is by Father Fernando Armelini. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb. Happy Easter. The evangelical text begins with a time indication. The first day of the week was dawning. Today we know what day it was. Sunday, April 9, year 30. The day that Christians called the 8th day. In fact, the ancient baptisteries were octagonal. This number had become sacred number for Christians since it indicated Easter. They were octagonal because those who were baptized realized that they had entered a day that will never end. Their lives were not destined for a grave, but for a life that does not die. On this Easter morning, we meet two women who are on their way when it is still dark. They are Mary Magdalene, whom we know very well, and then another Mary, who is probably the one whom the evangelist Matthew mentions at the time of Jesus' burial. She was the mother of James and Joseph. The evangelist Matthew remembers that when Joseph of Arimathea wrapped the body of Jesus in a white sheet and put it on a tomb and rolled the stone and retired, the evangelist says that there were many women who observed at a distance, and among them were Mary Magdalene and Mary, mother of James and Joseph. Then another woman is also mentioned, the mother of Zebedee's sons, James and John. On Easter morning, this woman, the mother of James and John, no longer appears. We can make an assumption. Who was this mother of the sons of Zebedee? The evangelist mentions her because one day she presented herself to Jesus to ask him that when he would enter his glory, when he would conquer power, to put his two sons, one at his right and one at his left. She dreamed of glory. This woman must have seen all her dreams collapse on that Friday. And so we can intuit and understand that on Easter morning she does no longer move. She discreetly disappeared from the scene because she saw that the story of the Master of Nazareth had ended tragically. What are these two Marys going to do at the grave? It is the love they had for the Master that leads them to visit the place of burial. The custom was that for 3 days people would visit the grave. But the Greek verb that is used here is zeoreo, which means they were going to contemplate, to reflect. It's not simply just a gateway to see the grave. They will rethink what happened. They are resigned, but they need to re-elaborate their mourning and to rethink. Therefore, to speak about it, they will cry, regret, and also reflect on the death of the just. The power, the strength of money have overcome once again. It only remains to resign oneself to the immense power of evil, of lies, thinking that these negative forces always take the best part. The righteous has been defeated, the liberator has been reduced to silence, forever buried in a grave. They must have thought that this was the history of the world. It has always been like this, it is always be like that. The world, the new world, which we have placed all our hope has failed. Those who have not yet received the light of Easter can only walk to the grave to Zeorei, contemplate the victory of death. Therefore, the triumph of the non-meaning of life, and if everything ends in the grave, is it worth being born? The two Marys represent all those who have not yet received the light of Easter. They move that way. They will contemplate the fate of the man who ends in a grave. Let's hear what happens when these two women arrive at the grave. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven, approached, rolled back the stone, and sat upon it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing was white as snow. Matthew narrates in a different way from the visit of these women to the tomb, different from the other evangelists. The other evangelists say that when they reached to the tomb, the stone of the entrance of the tomb had already been removed. But Matthew says the women witnessed a great event. We are not facing here in front of a journalistic account of a specific event. No, Matthew wants to present what happened at Easter, the greatest intervention of God in history when death was finally overcome. And to present this truth, he had at his disposal the language and images that all his readers understand very well because they are biblical images. The first of these images, and behold, there was a great earthquake. The earthquake is the impressive explosion of the forces of nature, and it is used in the Bible. There is no stronger comparison to indicate God's intervention. For example, when God comes down to Mount Sinai to speak to Moses, the book of Exodus says that the entire mount began to shake. Where God comes, we have this shaking of the earth. And it is precisely to the abysses of the earth that the largest earthquake in the history of the universe arrives. These are the abysses of the earth where all those who have died, who had left this world, entered. They entered Sheol. But when the patriarchs, David, the prophet, the Baptist, entered Sheol, nothing happened. Everything continued as before. They were all still prisoners of death. But when Jesus entered Sheol, the earthquake also entered. It had entered a life that has overcome death. Let us note well, when Jesus has entered there, it is not that he has freed all prisoners from death and brought them back to this world. Notice the icon at my back. Jesus, living in this world, he's preaching, and later he too has entered the Sheol, but he has not returned to this world as was the case with Lazarus. He has entered the world of God. He has destroyed this door, and he has taken with him all those who they had been born before him and have died before him. And now this door of the world of God towards the world of God is always open, destroyed. Jesus is the firstborn of these resurrected ones. And when Matthew says that he's risen, it is not meant that he returned to this life, but that he has entered the Father's house. We see then that this earthquake is like the twists of a woman in labor who is about to give birth to a life that will never end. The life of those who have received the same life from the Father in heaven. The second image, an angel of the Lord. This expression often appears in the Bible and does not indicate an angel as we imagine it. No, no. This expression indicates the Lord Himself, and therefore what He has done on Easter Day. For example, when the Lord speaks to Moses from the bush, the sacred author says, "The angel of the Lord spoke to Moses." That is, He is the same Lord who spoke to Moses. And what does the Lord do? He came from heaven, came and rolled the stone. He rolls the stone, opens the grave, and we would hope that at this moment the women would see Jesus coming out of the grave. This has been imagined only our Western painters and artists who in their paintings presented Jesus as muscular, strong, who comes out with the cross in his hand and returns here. No. No evangelist narrates Jesus coming out of the tomb. Only an apocryphal gospel from the 2nd century, the Gospel of Peter, narrates this scene of Jesus coming out of the grave. The Gospels could not mention it because Jesus did not return to this life when the stone was removed. Jesus was risen at the same moment when He breathed His last. That was the moment when He entered the world of Sheol and freed everyone by introducing them to the Father's house. The men had put a stone covering the grave. It was the definitive sign of the victory of death. An expression that we also use when we want to end something. We say we put a stone on top of it. They thought that they had closed forever in the grave the one who wanted to start a new world. Instead, the angel sits victorious on the stone. He is the victor of death. The stone had been sealed by the soldiers, the guards. They kept watch so that the grave would always be closed. But God has broken these seals. And breaking these seals meant challenging the Caesar of Rome. And the angel does it. It defies the power of this world, that of the rulers, of the oppressors who wanted to keep Jesus forever prisoner in death. And he says that the ancient world, the world of death, has been vanquished. And every sign of death disappears because God has given us the same life that Jesus of Nazareth had and has. Then the appearance of the angel. An angel of the Lord descended from heaven. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing was white as snow. There are also two biblical images. Lightning is a divine attribute. It's the maximum of light and power. And the white color indicates the fullness of light that illumines the darkness of the grave. We think that death is a passage from light to the darkness of the grave. But now no more. Now one passes from the darkness of this world and enters the full light because the Sheol has been illuminated by Easter. And now those who have been on the side of death enter the scene. Those who wanted the tombstone not to be removed. And these are the guards placed by the powers of this world, the political and the religious powers. Let us listen. The guards were shaken with fear of him and became like dead men. Then the angel said to the woman in reply, "Do not be afraid. I know that you are seeking Jesus, the crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead, and he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you." Who do these guards at the grave represent? They represent all those who, out of interest, servility, or ignorance, align themselves with the old world. Those who want to perpetuate the ancient world, the world of the rulers, dominators of this world. They represent those who defend the world of death. These guards are full of fear for the earthquake. They see disappear everything in which they have believed, all their dreams. All that ends. They are left without words, confused by the intervention of the Lord in history. The angel does not speak to them. They must realize for themselves that their life at the service of death is destined to succumb. And in fact, they will fall back on what counts in this world, money. They do not change. They are not persuaded by this earthquake. And the angel speaks to the women, "Do not fear." It is the guards who must be afraid because they see all their projects disappear. Then the angel gives the interpretation of the empty tomb. I know that they are looking for Jesus, the crucified. He's not here. The tomb is empty, as all the tombs are empty, because in the tombs there are only the remains, not the people. Since the divine force that Jesus of Nazareth arrived, the empty tomb is the signal. And when it is verified that the tomb is empty, then one is prepared to encounter the risen one. The risen one is no longer the body made up of atoms, but the body of the risen one that cannot be verified with our senses. This encounter with the risen one, first to the women and then to the disciples, is narrated by all the evangelists with the only language available to them, using images and material comparisons, seeing, touching, embracing the risen one, and even Luke adds to eat with the risen one. The revelation that these women receive from heaven is that Christ is alive, is risen as he had said. In front of the empty tomb, the women remember that Jesus said that a life given does not end in the darkness of a tomb, but in the light of God's world. Remembering the words of Jesus, the women understand that Jesus has risen. And now the angel's message informs them that the risen one, "Go tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there they will see me." What does Galilee mean? It was a place where Jews and Gentiles lived together. They were not a pure breed Jews. It was a mixed breed. This Galilee represents our world, where we live together with people who seek God and also people who are not interested in God. It is a mixed world where we live, with people we love and also with people that, we cannot sometimes bear. This is what Galilee represents. They will see the risen one returning to Galilee, where again the risen one guides his disciples as he guides us today. It is our Galilee. With this announcement, with what we have seen with the gaze of faith, it is how we will experience the presence of Christ who is alive. Let us listen to what the women do. Then they went away quickly from the tomb, fearful yet overjoyed, and ran to announce this to his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them on their way and greeted them. They approached, embraced his feet, and did him homage. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and announce to my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." The women immediately leave the grave. There is no point in looking at the empty tomb, and they run to announce to the disciples the experience they have had. The apostles have not yet found the risen one, but are prepared to find him because they have remembered what he had said. And while they are on the way going to announce to the brothers that Jesus is alive, the risen one met them and said, "Rejoice, do not fear." After Jesus has passed through the Sheol, people should not be afraid of the darkness of a grave because it has been illuminated. What do the women do? They approached, embraced his feet, and did him homage. We would have embraced Jesus. Instead, the women embraced his feet. What's the meaning of this gesture? The memory of Easter insists on hands and feet of Jesus. And also the risen one says, "Look at my hands and my feet." The hands are the symbol of what he has done, and the feet symbol of the path that he has traveled. Let us remember that when he called his disciples, he told them, "Come after me, following my footsteps." Those steps that apparently led to death, because Jesus always spoke of donating life. Now the women have understood where those feet came from. Passing through the gift of life, those feet led through death to the glory of God. It is very important to understand where the following of Jesus leads. The road did not end at Calvary. Those feet went much further, and it is important to contemplate the destination of those feet. The words of the risen one are the same as those of the angel. Do not be afraid. There is no need to be afraid of death after Christ has crossed the dark valley that is so scary for us. It is very beautiful what the risen one says, repeating the angel words, "Go tell my brothers." The brothers, those same people who abandoned him, surrendered him, renegade him, they are still his brothers. The letter to the Hebrews will say, "He's not ashamed to call us brothers because he loves us as we are." And it is to these brothers and sisters that he has delivered this good news that we are called to announce to the whole world. I wish you all a blessed Easter.